So in the last session, we have discussed the various fundamental building blocks of Apex programming and what exactly the data types, what exactly the variable, and how to define the variable and how to assign the value inside that variable. If the user did not assign any value for the variable, then what will be the default value? And what are the various operators in Apex programming language? And what are the various printing statements to display the values inside the debug log file? We have discussed that. Now, so in today's session, we'll see some small programs. How can we write the code? How can we perform those operations? We'll see practically here. So before writing the code, we are going to be discussing how many ways are there to write the Apex programming code. So basically, inside our Salesforce instance, Salesforce is providing the different ways to write the Apex programming code. Now, writing the code is different, executing the code is different. Now we can able to write the code as a developer or as an administrator, and we can execute both. But when coming to the actual end users, or the customers, or the partners, or the employees who are actually accessing our applications, those people just they can able to invoke the code which we have written. Because those people are not technical people, those people are not the programmers, those people don't know any programming languages of Salesforce, those people are not having any technical skills to write some code to execute and to perform some operations. Now we have implemented all those functionalities by writing the code on behalf of them, and we have placed that code inside that metadata repository, and from that metadata repository they can able to invoke the code and they can able to perform the operations whatever they want. So now for that, when coming to the Salesforce, we are having different ways are there to write the code. We are having different ways are there to invoke the Apex code which we have implemented. Now let's see here. So what are the various ways are there to write the Apex programming code? Salesforce provides the below ways to write the Apex programming code. The first one is the standard navigation. So by using that standard navigation also we can able to write the code. Then what exactly the navigation for this standard navigation here? Now let's see. Go to the setup menu and click on it. Go to the build menu in the left panel. Click on develop and expand it. So now previously we have discussed about customize, we have discussed about create, but now we are discussing about develop. Nothing but we are going to be developing something new by writing the code. So now whatever the features are there inside our Salesforce, these are not sufficient for us. The ready-made features are not sufficient. So we want to develop something new. So at that time, we are going to be using some programming languages to write that code. For that, we have to go with the develop option. Inside the develop, click on Apex classes. Click on Apex classes link. It is populating all the Apex classes to you. So that click on new button to create a new Apex class. Write the code inside the class and then click on save button. As soon as when you click on save button, the code will be sending to the first.com platform. It will get compiled and it will execute that code. Now, the observation. Once the user click on save button, Apex code will send to force.com platform for the compilation. Once the successful compilation is done, then it will store the code into the metadata repository. This process already we have discussed that. So this is the actual process is going to be happening when coming to that Salesforce. So now the first way is the standard navigation. By using that standard navigation, we can able to create our own Apex class. Inside that Apex class, we can able to write that code, and then we can able to save this code into the metadata repository here. Now, the second way, by using developer console. Here also we need to create that Apex class, and then inside that Apex class we need to write the code, and we can able to save that code inside that metadata repository. So for that, go to your name on the top right corner, and expand it. Click on developer console link, and then go to the developer console editor. As soon as when you click on that developer console link, it will be opening the developer console editor. Already you are aware of that, and previously we have discussed about so many functionalities as well. And then click on file menu and expand it. Click on new menu item, and inside that new menu item it is going to populating one more sub menu to you. Click on Apex classes from the sub menu items. As soon as when you click on Apex classes, it is going to be providing a small dialog box to you. Inside that dialog box, there will be a text box to enter the name of the Apex class which you want to create inside your Salesforce instance. So for that here, we have to enter the Apex class name inside the text box provided by the dialog box. And once you have entered that Apex class name, then click on OK button. As soon as when you click on OK button, the Apex class will be getting created for you with the specified format. And then write the code inside that Apex class. Write the code inside that Apex class. And then use Control S to compile the code. So here there is no save button is available here. So why? Because is when coming to the developer console will provide an auto save option to you. Nothing but for each and every 10 fraction of seconds, automatically your code will be sending to the force.com platform for the compilation. Generally what happened is Salesforce is purely a cloud platform. Now we are using that browser. Inside the browser we are writing that code. Inside the browser we are writing that code. For example, I'm developing a very lengthy program. Now I have written some 100 lines of code. When I click on save button, suddenly internet connection has been disconnected. So at that time, what about my data? What about the 100 lines of code which I have written? The whole data will be getting lost. So for that, here what happened is when coming to the Salesforce, it is providing an auto save option by default. When you go to your Gmail application, whenever you are going to be typing some message, for each and every 5 fraction of seconds, your code will be saving like as a draft automatically. It will be saving auto save option here. Like the same way here also, for each and every 10 fraction of seconds, your code will be sending to the first.com platform for the compilation. If there is any issues are available, compilation errors are available, immediately it will be displaying to you automatically by default. So for that here, there is no specific save button is available inside that. Automatically for every 10 fraction of second, the code will be sending to the first.com platform for the compilation. If you want to save it explicitly, okay, if you want to save it explicitly, then we can use that shortcut called as Control Yes. Now, so now make a note of it here. This is a option is available to you here. Developer console provides an auto save option which sends the code to the first.com platform for each 10 fraction of seconds. For each and every 10 fraction of seconds. So that there is no save button is available when coming to the developer console. And then once the successful compilation is done, then automatically the code will be saving into the metadata repository. Once the successful compilation done, it will store that class code into that metadata repository here. Now, so now whatever the classes that you have created, where exactly this classes information is available to you, already we have discussed that all the Apex classes will be getting resides inside an object called as Apex class object. Now, make a note. All Apex classes will get resides in an object in Apex class object. So now these are the objects internally using with the Salesforce where exactly the Apex class will be getting stored. Now, if you want to query the data, we can able to query that here. We can query the Apex classes from the object. For example, we can query that select ID of the Apex class, name of the Apex class from the Apex class object. Like as account, like as contact, like as your custom object, in the same way we can able to query this information also. We can able to query that Apex class ID and we can query that Apex class name also. If you want to get the content of that Apex class, whatever the code that you are written inside that, then we can able to use a column called as body column. In that body column, it is going to be saving the code which you have written inside that Apex class, so that we can able to use this query and we can able to fetch all the Apex classes information which you have created in the past inside your Salesforce organization. Now, so if you want to query only that organization information, now for every Salesforce instance, Salesforce is going to be creating so many number of organizations to you. If you want to query the organization information, at that time we have to use an object called as organization object. Inside this organization object, we can able to make a query and we can able to fetch that information whatever you require. Now, the next one. The third way is execute anonymous window. The third option is to write the code is execute anonymous window here. When coming to the execute anonymous window, this is like as Now, when coming to the execute anonymous window will be providing a flexibility like as an immediate window. Like whatever the code that you want to write, whatever the code that you want to execute, that code we can able to write and we can execute from the same place itself. Now, then how can we write your code inside this execute anonymous window? Now we will see practically here. Now for that we are having this navigation part. So now execute anonymous window, go to this execute anonymous window. For that here, go to this navigation, go to your name on the top right corner, and then go to the developer console. Once you go to the developer console editor, then simply click on an option called as shortcut called as Control E. Or else if you want to go with the navigation, then click on debug menu and expand it. And the fourth option is click on open execute anonymous window menu. Or else if you want, you can able to use a shortcut also here. We can use that shortcut Control E. So now just to go to your developer console editor and then simply we can click on Control E. So now automatically execute anonymous window will be getting provided to you here, and then write the code inside this. Inside the editor, and sixth one, click on execute button to execute the code. So but here the problem is whatever the code that you have written inside this execute anonymous window, whatever the code that you have executed from this execute anonymous window, this code will not be saving into the metadata repository. The previous two options which we have used, like the standard navigation, developer console. So whatever the two ways that we have used previously, though from those two ways, whatever the code that you have written, that code will be getting compiled, that code will be saving into the metadata repository here. So now from the execute anonymous window, whatever the code that you have written, that code will not be saving into the metadata repository here. This is simply like as an immediate window option to you, nothing but for your sample purpose. We can able to write some code, we can able to execute the code, we can see whether it is working properly or not. Now, so let's make a note of it here. Code written inside the execute anonymous window will not get saved into metadata repository. Metadata repository. Just we can able to write the code, we can able to execute, and we can see the result as well here. And the fourth option, we are having that Eclipse IDE. Okay, Eclipse IDE. So these are the four ways are there in order to write your code inside your Salesforce instance. Now Salesforce is providing these four ways in order to write your Apex programming code. One is the standard navigation. Second one is the developer console. Third one is the execute anonymous window. Fourth one is the Eclipse IDE. In the future classes, we are going to be discussing how can we connect your Salesforce instance with the Eclipse IDE, and then how can we write the code inside the Eclipse IDE, how can we run, how can we deploy the code by using this Eclipse IDE also we'll see practically. During the deployment concept, we'll see what exactly the chain sets, how can we deploy the code by using chain sets, and how can we deploy the code by using Eclipse IDE, and how can we deploy the code by using the Ant migration, we'll see practically during that deployments concept. Now, so now once the code has been getting written, then how can we execute this code? How many ways are there in order to invoke the Apex code here? We can invoke the Apex code with the below options. So now basically we are having 8 ways are available in order to invoke your Apex programming code. The first way is by using execute anonymous window. From the execute anonymous window, we can able to invoke that code. By using triggers, we can able to invoke that Apex class code. And the third one is by using Visual Force programming, nothing but the Visual Force pages. Inside the Visual Force page, we can able to place a button control. When you click on that button control, we can able to call that associated method also from your Apex class. So for that here, by using the Visual Force pages also, we can able to invoke that Apex class code. And the fourth one, by using batch Apex programming. By using that batch Apex programming also, we can able to invoke your Apex programming code. By using schedule programming also, scheduling that Apex programming. By using schedule Apex programming also, we can able to invoke your Apex programming code. And then by using email services. So by using your email services also, we can able to invoke your Apex programming code. By using APIs. So whatever the APIs that you have created by using the REST programming, nothing but the REST APIs, we can able to invoke your Apex programming code from the outside. And the eighth one, by using Eclipse IDE. From the Eclipse IDE also, we can able to run your Apex programming code. These are the various ways are available by which we can able to invoke your Apex programming code. Now totally we are having that 8 ways are available. We can execute the code by using execute anonymous window. We can execute the code from the triggers, from the Visual Force pages, from the batch Apex programming, from the schedule Apex programming, from the email services, from the APIs, and from the Eclipse IDE. So these are the various ways are there from which we can able to invoke your Apex programming code. And then how can we write your Apex programming code? How can we compile? How can we execute that code? We'll see practically over here. So now each and every option I will show you practically now, and then we will move forward to that writing our programming code by using execute anonymous window here. Why? Because is here the basic programming we are going to writing inside that execute anonymous window. So now why? Because is inside this developer console, inside this standard navigation, we have to create our class, and inside the class we have to write the code. But we haven't discussed about what exactly that class, what exactly the object, because we are into that the basic programming. Once we are done with the basic programming, then we will move forward to that object oriented programming. There we are discussing about what exactly a class, what exactly an object, what exactly the methods, how to write the code, how to call those methods. We'll see practically over there. So for that here, just I will show you that practically, and then how can we write that code. Now first to go with that standard navigation. Let's go to your Salesforce instance. Click on that setup menu on the top right corner. Go to the left panel. Inside the left panel, go to that build menu. Inside the build menu, click on develop and expand it. Inside that develop menu, you will be having an option called as Apex classes. So now we will be having that Apex classes here. If you want to create your own Apex class, then go to that Apex classes link. Go to that Apex classes section. Inside it is populating all the Apex classes which we have created in the past. So now we have created a basic Apex class with the name sample. So now this class will be getting populating to you over here. Now, if you want to create your own new Apex class, then click on that new button. You will be having that new button is available here. Now click on that new button in order to create a new Apex class. Click on new. It is providing a small editor to you, nothing but this is the editor where exactly we are going to be writing that Apex programming code here. Now, whenever I'm typing that information, displaying like as a very, very small, the font size. If you want to increase that font size, then you can use that, the bigger symbol of capital A. If you want to decrease the font size, then you can able to use that a small a. Now we can able to increase the font size also here. Now, here we can write that code. For that, we have to define that class. I'm defining a class. Okay, don't worry about that. When moving forward, we'll see what exactly a class and what is the syntax of the class, everything we'll see practically. For the sample purpose, I'm showing to you right now here. Public class, I'm defining account class. I'm defining a class with the name account class. Inside this class, I'm going to be defining some variables here. I'm specifying some public integer account ID and the public string account name, location, email ID. Public boolean is account active. Public decimal, annual revenue. So now these are the various variables that I have defined inside that class here. So now what exactly the syntax of the class and what kind of functionalities we can write inside the class, we'll see in the during the Apex object-oriented programming concept. Now, once you have written your Apex programming code, once you're done with your Apex programming code, then you have to click on that save button in order to save this code. As soon as when you click on this save button, the code will be sending to the force.com platform for the compilation. If the successful compilation is done, the code will be saving into your metadata repository here. So now once the metadata repository code has been saved, you can able to invoke this class multiple times whenever you want, wherever you want, based on your need. Nothing but this is a reusable class created by the Salesforce to you by default. Now, so now for example here. So now we will see how to create an Apex programming code by using the developer console. So this is the way, basic way in order to create an Apex class by using that standard navigation. The second way, in order to create an Apex class by using the developer console, we'll see practically over here. I'm placing this code here. Now, so now I'm creating a new Apex class by using the developer console right now. Go to your name on the top right corner and expand it. Click on developer console. When you click on the developer console, it is going to be providing a developer console editor to you. Inside this developer console editor, we can able to create your Apex class also over here. How to create our Apex class by using developer console editor, now we'll see practically here. Once the developer console editor has been opened, go to that file menu on the top menu bar and expand it. Inside that you will be having some items are available, nothing but menu items are available. Click on that menu item, nothing but the new menu item. Automatically it is opening a submenu to you. Inside this submenu, click on that submenu item called as Apex class. As soon as when you click on Apex class, it is providing a small dialog box to you. In this dialog box, it will be asking you to provide the name of the class which you want to create right now. I'm giving my class name as contact management. Contact management. Click on OK. Now your Apex class will be getting created for you here. Observe the difference here. If I'm using that standard navigation, inside that editor, we have to write everything. Public, class, class name, everything we have to write. But here, when you go to the developer console, it is giving that flexibility to you. Whatever the class that you are going to create, if you are giving that class name inside the text box, automatically it is creating the class or structure to you. Now the class template is available to you ready-madely here, so that we can able to write the code whatever you want inside that. Now let's see here. I'm defining some variables here. Public string first name, last name, email, phone, and the fax. These are the variables that I have defined inside that. And the public boolean is customer active. I'm defining that variable. And along with that, I'm using that variable public integer customer ID. So now I have defined these variables here. For each and every 10 fraction of seconds, automatically your code will be sending to the first.com platform for the compilation. So now observe this one here. Already we have discussed that as part of Apex programming language, as per the basic fundamental rules, each and every Apex programming statement has to be ends with a semicolon. That is a fundamental rule. Now when coming to my line, nothing but when coming to my statement, now here we have defined a Boolean variable. Now this variable I don't want to close it properly here. So now every statement has to be ends with a semicolon, but now I'm removing the semicolon. Observe what will happen here. No, I haven't saved this code because there is no save button is available. Observe what will happen. So now observe what happened. Have you identified any new thing? Here, when coming to your code, now in this particular line, it is providing a small red color exclamation symbol to you. This exclamation symbol is going to be indicating this is the place where exactly some errors has occurred. Then how do you know what is that errors occurred? How many errors are occurred? Now inside this tab bar, it is providing the problems tab. In that problems tab, it is going to be indicating a red color one symbol. Nothing but it is indicating that one error is available. Nothing but one compilation error is available over here. So now at that time here. So what is that error message? When you expand that, when you click on that problems tab, it is providing that error message to you, unexpected token public. Nothing but after this particular statement, it is expecting a semicolon, but unexpectedly it has been get that value called as public here. Nothing but this statement is not ended properly. So now what I'm doing is, now I am going to be making a semicolon over here. Now I'm not saving any code, just I'm sitting idle. Now let's see what will happen in this case. For every fraction of second, the code will be sending to the first.com platform for the compilation. Now all the statements are ended properly here. Now observe this one. So now the problems has been resolved. There is no problems available. There is no exclamation symbol, nothing but the whole code is correct. Nothing but there is no syntactical mistakes inside your code. Nothing but for every 10 fraction of seconds, the code will be sending to the first.com platform for the compilation. And then once the successful compilation is done, it will be saving your code into that metadata repository here. Then whatever the Apex classes that you have created, then how do we know how many Apex classes we have created as of now? If you want to query all those Apex classes, then you can go to that query editor. Inside that query editor, we can able to query those Apex classes information also here. Like a select ID, comma, name of the Apex class, we can able to query from Apex class object. Apex class is a standard object given by the Salesforce to you in which it is storing all the Apex classes which you have created. Once you have typed that query, when you click on execute button, all the Apex classes names will be getting populated to you. So these are the various Apex classes are available inside your Salesforce organization, like as sample class, account class, contact management, like that. These are the classes we have created as of now over here. So now we can able to see the ID of those Apex classes also inside that. Now if you want to get the content of that Apex class, then we can able to use that column also. Now to get that content, we are using that body column. When you click on execute button, it is going to be getting that Apex class ID and the name of the Apex class and the content also. Nothing but for that Apex class, what will be the content that you have written, we can able to get that content also over here. So now this is the content is available. If you want to see that content, just a double click on that content line. automatically the whole line will be available inside that editable format. Copy that by using Control A, Control C, go to your editor. You can go to a new window and you can able to paste it over here. Whatever the code that you have written, the whole code we can able to fetch over here. Now this is the code we have written over here. The whole code is available to you. So now this is what the code we have written as of now. The whole code we can able to fetch from that object as well. So now this is the code we have written here. So nothing but what happened inside that Apex class object, it will be holding a column called as body column. Inside that body column, it will be holding the whole code which are written inside that Apex class. All the Apex classes information will be storing inside an object called as Apex class object. Now this is the way. For example, here, when coming to your Apex class, inside your Apex programming, so as of now, how many lines of code we can able to write inside that? Inside an Apex programming code, how many lines of code can we write inside that? Do we have any limitation or not? If the limitation is there, then what is that limitation over here? Now let's see that limitation as well here. Whenever you are going to be writing that Apex class code, we can able to write maximum of 30 lakhs characters Apex programming code. Now, there is a limitation is available to you. Make a note. We can write maximum of 30 lakhs Apex programming, 30 lakhs characters of Apex programming code. Okay, Apex programming code. Once you are reaching to the Apex for 30 lakhs characters and you cannot able to write some more code here, then what we can do? Now this limitation is not only for the developer, free developer edition. This limitation is available for every edition available in Salesforce. It may be contact manager edition. It may be group edition. It may be professional edition. It may be enterprise edition. It may be unlimited edition. It may be performance edition. It may be free developer edition, anything. What are the editions that we have discussed? For every edition, this limit is fixed. This will be common limitation given by the Salesforce to you. Now, if you are reaching to the number of characters here, now whenever you are going to be writing some Apex programming code, inside that code, how many number of characters that you have written, everything will be getting counting by the Salesforce automatically by default. In the entire organization here, okay, in the entire organization, in the entire organization, we can able to write so many number of Apex classes. When you combine all these Apex classes code, the number of characters inside this, all these Apex classes code available inside the organization should not be crossed more than 30 lakhs characters. If it is reaching to the more 30 lakhs characters, automatically Salesforce will not allow you to write some more code inside that, because already you have reached to that maximum number of characters of Apex code, that is 30 lakhs characters. This question is very, very important. This is one of the certification question over here. Now, so now at that time, what we can do here? If I'm using free developer edition, then what we can do? If I'm using the unlimited edition, then what we can do here? If it is a free developer edition, there is no chance of extension. Okay, there is no chance of extension. Nothing but we are not getting any extensions from the Salesforce side, because Salesforce people has given that limitation to you. So now why they have given these 30 lakhs characters? Why can't we write my own number of lines of code? Why can't we write some unlimited number of characters? Why the Salesforce is giving this limitation is, when coming to the Salesforce is always enforcing you to write the code in a generic format. Write the code in an optimized way. Why? Because is whatever the code that you have written, that code is not saving into your local system. That code is not storing into your local server. That code will be saving into the shared infrastructure given by the Salesforce to you. So now for each and every organization, Salesforce is going to be allocating some amount of space inside their Salesforce server. So now in that particular, the memory location which they have reserved, your actual code will be getting resides inside that. So that already we have discussed during that multi-tenant architecture over there. Now during that multi-tenant architecture, we have discussed that Salesforce is going to be allocating some amount of space for each and every organization inside that Salesforce instance. Now, let me show you that. Now, so now assume that this is that Salesforce instance, nothing but the Salesforce server. It may be AP server, nothing but AP2, AP4, NA14, NA45, AP EU6 or whatever. It may be any server here. Already you are aware of the various regions available in Salesforce here. We are having that Asia Pacific region, we are having North America region, we are having the Europe region. In each and every region, Salesforce is maintaining some number of servers to you over here. Already you are aware of what are the various server instances are available. In the AP region, we are having AP0 to AP4, nothing but AP0, AP1, AP2, AP3, AP4. These are the 5 servers are available in the Asia Pacific region. In the North America region, you are having from NA0 to NA45. Totally 46 servers are there. In EU region, we are having EU0 to EU6. Nothing but totally 7 servers are available. In each and every server, it may be any server over here. In each and every server, they will be having some amount of memory space is available. This memory space they are going to be allocating to each and every customer separately. Whenever you are going to be creating a new free developer Salesforce account, inside this Salesforce server, Salesforce is going to be allocating some amount of space to you. Like as one tenant, it is allocating some amount of space to you here. Now in that space, your applications, your data, your Apex characters, your Visual Force programming code, everything will be getting resides inside that. So now for that here, when coming to the Salesforce, whenever you are going to be creating a new Salesforce account that is called as a Salesforce.com organization, every Salesforce.com organization will be having their own ID, which will be starting from 00D, which already we have discussed during that multi-tenant architecture over there. So now inside a single organization, we can able to write maximum of 30 lakhs characters Apex code, not more than that. So now if it is a free developer edition, we cannot able to extend this number of characters. Suppose if it is a unlimited edition, then what we can do? If it is an unlimited edition, then what we can do? If you are reaching to that maximum of 30 lakhs characters code, then we can able to contact your Salesforce administrator. No need to contact the Salesforce people here. When we reach to 30 lakhs Apex code, 30 lakhs characters Apex code, then contact your Salesforce administrator. Contact the Salesforce administrator and he can extend the characters limit to some 50 lakhs and to 1 crore also. Depends upon your requirement, we can able to keep on extending this number of characters limit also here. That flexibility will be available. So now no need to contact the Salesforce support people every time. So now there are some provisions are available in Salesforce. By default, Salesforce is giving 30 lakhs characters count. If you are reaching to the 30 lakhs characters count, then we can able to contact our organization's Salesforce administrator. Our Salesforce administrator will be having the rights to extend this number of characters limit also here. That flexibility will be available to you over here. Now, if it is a free developer edition, then there is no option to extend this number of characters limit. This is the limitation given by the Salesforce to you here. Now, after that, the third way we'll see practically here, execute anonymous window. So what exactly the execute anonymous
Excuse me, Feroz.
And then how can we write the code inside this execute anonymous window? And how can we compile? How can we execute the code? We'll see practically now. Yeah, tell me.
Feroz, as a Salesforce administrator, how can we extend that?
In that unlimited edition, you will be having the rights. Inside the data management options, you will be having that characters limit is also available to you. In the free developer edition, you will not be getting those options to you here. When you go to that unlimited edition, you will be having that the data management. Inside this data management, you will be having that characters limit options are also available, by which we can able to extend that the number of characters limit. Okay. Now, so now let's see how can we write the code inside that execute anonymous window, and then how can we compile and how can we execute that code. Let's see practically here. So now when coming to the execute anonymous window, this is like as an immediate window where we can able to write some code and we can able to compile and we can execute that code. We can able to see the result also here. Then where we can see the result, already we have discussed that yesterday, that Salesforce is going to be providing a log file for each and every request. For each and every execution, Salesforce is going to be providing a log file that is called as a debug log file. Now in that debug log file, it is going to be placing that information, nothing but the programming execution, and along with that the result of your code also here. Now let's see how can we write that code. Now let's go to your developer console. You are aware of how to go to the developer console. Once you go to the developer console, then go to the top menu bar. In the top menu, go to the debug menu, expand it. You will be having a first option called as open execute anonymous window. When you click on that, an execute anonymous window will be getting open for you here. Okay, an execute anonymous window will be getting open for you. This is called as the execute anonymous window. If you want to expand that window, then you can click on that expand button. Automatically, it will be open this. It will be giving that very big window to you over here. Now, or else, if you want to open this by using shortcut here. Now, currently I'm into the developer console. Just simply click on that Control E. When you click on Control E, automatically the execute anonymous window will be getting open for you. Execute Control E is the shortcut to open that execute anonymous window. Now expand that. So now this is the editor is available to you where we can able to write the code. Once you have write that code, in order to execute that code, we are having the two buttons are available here. In the bottom corner, okay, in the bottom corner, bottom right corner, you will be having two buttons are there. One is the execute button. Second one is execute highlighted button. So now what exactly the difference between execute and the execute highlighted buttons over here? So now when you click on that execute button, whatever the code that you have written inside this entire editor, the whole code will be getting executed for you here. The whole code will be sending to the first.com platform for the compilation and for the execution process. But if you don't want to execute the whole code, if you want to execute only a few lines of code, then at that time, select only those few lines of code which you want to execute. Select only those few lines of code by using that, the mouse pointer, and then click on execute highlighted. Nothing but whatever the lines that you have selected, only those lines you can able to execute by using that execute highlighted button. Execute button, execute highlighted button. Execute button is going to be executing the whole code which you have written inside this editor, and the execute highlighted button is going to be invoking or executing only those lines of code which we have selected by using that mouse pointer. The remaining lines of code will not be getting executed for you here. Now,
There was one question.
Yeah.
So can we select multiple blocks for executing? I mean,
no, we cannot select multiple blocks. Now, in a single place only, we can able to select that line, like as your Word document. Okay, we cannot select the multiple blocks of that code. Okay, we can select only one block here. That block of code we can execute.
okay. Thanks.
There was one question. Can I insert the data with anonymous window and also delete the records?
Yes. So now by writing the code inside this execute anonymous window, you can perform all the operations whatever you want. We can insert the record, we can update the record, we can delete the record, everything we can do. But whatever the code that you have written here, this code will not be saving into the metadata repository. That's it.
Okay.
All the operations you can perform. Now we will see how can we write this code over here. So now let's take a small program over here. Let's take a small program. So now my requirement is write an Apex program to display welcome message. I want to write a small program in order to display that welcome message here. Nothing but what happened, I want to print some message like as welcome. Then how can we write the code? How to display that code here? In order to print that message, what is that function that we have? Yesterday we have discussed about a class called as system class. Inside that system class, we are having a method called as debug method. This debug method is going to be printing the message which we have specified inside the method inside your debug log file. For each and every request, Salesforce is going to be generating a debug log file. In that debug log file, it is going to be describing the whole execution of your program which we have executed. So now inside the debug log only, it will be printing that message to you here. Then how can we write that code? We'll see practically now. Now in order to print that message, we are going to be using a class called as system.debug message. Now debug is a method, system is a class. So now inside this class, we are having a ready-made method called as system.debug, like as printf statement in our C programming, cout statement inside our C++ programming, system.console. The read line or the write line, this is like as some Java. Like that here, we are going to be using our own Apex provided method that is called as debug method, which is available inside a class called as system class, system.debug. You can specify the message which you want to print. Welcome to Apex programming. So whatever the message that you want to print, that message is nothing but a string. If it is a string value, then compulsorily we have to enclose into that single quotes. Okay. Whatever the message that we are going to print, if that message is a string, then we have to enclose that string into a single quotation. That's it. Now this is the line that we would like to write in order to execute your code here. Now no need to include any header files, no need to import any packages, no need to add any namespaces inside that. Directly we can able to write that code. Now let's go to your developer execute anonymous window. Go to this execute anonymous window. I'm writing that code system.debug. Now it is providing the IntelliSense feature also to you here. Now as soon as whenever I'm typing that system dot, it is populating all the methods available inside that system class to you here. Now this feature is called as IntelliSense feature. No need to remember all the methods available inside the class. No need to remember the syntaxes also. Everything will be getting given by Salesforce by default to you. Now whenever you are using the system.debug, now it is providing that method syntax to you. Now just press enter, automatically the method syntax will be getting included over here. So now specify that message which you want to print. I'm printing that message, welcome to Apex programming. So now here I have written this code. Now I would like to execute this code. Then how can we execute this code over here? So for that, now in order to execute this code, you will be having that execute button is available. On the bottom right corner, okay, on the bottom right corner, you will be having that button called as execute button. Click on that execute button, it is going to be executing your code. When you click on execute button, request has been sent to the server. Now just a small pop-up message has been displayed to you, nothing but request has been sent to the server. Salesforce has processed the request. It has generated the response. Then where we can see this response here? How can we see that result? Now upon executing that code, Salesforce is going to be generating a log file. That log file is called as a debug log file. Then where we can see this debug log file here? For that, go to your developer console. Okay, go to your developer console. Inside this developer console, you will be having a tab bar is available. You will be having this tab bar. In this tab bar, you will be having a tab called as logs tab. The first tab is logs tab. When you click on that logs tab, it is providing a log file to you inside that. Nothing but there is a log file is available. Training Salesforce application is unknown. Now there is a log file is available. In this log file, it is going to be indicating the status. Nothing but the status is nothing but the log file has been generated successfully. The code has been executed successfully. It is giving a column called as read status. Nothing but read status is going to be indicating whether the user has looked into this particular debug log file or not. Nothing but whether the user has opened this particular log file or not here. For that, it is going to be indicating the read status. Now, as of now, I haven't opened that log file here. Now, what is the size of this log file? Everything will be getting described over here. Okay, everything will be getting described over here to you. Now, let's see this information. Now, just a double click on that log file. Now, the log file will be getting open for you here. Inside that log file, it is going to be describing the whole execution process of your code. Even though you might be written one simple line of code, now in order to execute that program, it will be using some internal functionalities to you. It has to allocate some amount of memory. It has to utilize some Salesforce resources. So for that here, it will be having some execution flow inside that. This is the whole execution flow is available to you over here. Okay, here's the whole execution flow. It is going to be happening inside your Apex programming code. So now from this code, how can we cross-check what exactly my message? So for that here, in order to see your result, just here inside that bottom corner, you will be having that checkbox called as debug only checkbox. You will be having a checkbox called as debug only checkbox here. Select the debug only checkbox, nothing but I'm going to be instructing to that particular Salesforce instance. Please don't show me this entire execution flow of my program. Just to show me that messages which are printed by using system.debug file. So now for that here, just select that checkbox debug only. Then automatically it is filtering that debug log file. It is going to displaying only those debug statements which are written by using your program. So now this is a message it is going to printing to you. Welcome to Apex programming. So this is the way we are going to be writing the code. We are executing the code. We are observing the result over here. Now, so now here you can raise a question here. Every time, do we need to write the code? Do we need to come to here? Do we need to open that log file manually? Do we need to filter that results? No. So now in order to open that log file automatically here, we are having an option. When you come down, okay, when you come down here, inside this execute anonymous window, you will be having a checkbox called as open log checkbox. Okay, beside this execute button, you will be having a checkbox called as open log checkbox. Now, whenever you are selecting this checkbox, then what will happen? Now, as soon as when I click on execute button, then please execute my code, generate the debug log file, and open the debug log file for me automatically. Here, I don't want to open that log file manually by double click on it. So please open that log file for me here. So for that here, as soon as whenever you are selecting that open log checkbox, it is going to be opening the debug log file for you automatically. And from there, we can able to see that result. Now here I'm writing one more line of code here. System.debug. This is my first Apex program. This is my first Apex program. So now I'm executing this code right now over here. So now at that time, I have selected that open log checkbox. Click on execute. The request has been sending to the server. The request has been sent. When you go to the developer console, the log file has been opened for you. Previously, what happened? We have go to that logs tab. We have double click on that logs tab to open that log file here. But now the log file is ready-madely open for you to here, readily available to you. Just you can select debug only checkbox so that we can able to see our result here. Whatever the messages that you have printed, we can able to see those results as well here. Welcome to Apex programming, and this is my first Apex program. So this is the way we are going to be writing the code inside your Apex programming here, inside that execute anonymous window. Clear?
Feroz, one question. So is this the usual way to write the code, like
No.
practice?
No. See, whenever you are doing that actual implementation, we are going to be using the developer console. And when moving forward, we are discussing about one more option called as URL format. By using the URL format, by using developer console, we are going to be writing that code. But here for the sample purpose, we are going to be writing some code over here. Once we are moving forward to the object-oriented programming, everything we are writing inside the developer console itself.
So you will not use this anonymous window mostly in the
this execute anonymous window is used to execute your code.
Okay.
And Feroz, what is the difference between Visualforce and this execute window?
See, so now
Apex classes and Visualforce. See,
Apex classes are nothing but used to implement the business logic here. For example, assume that this is my application. So now for every application, you will be having the 3 layers will be available. One is the backend part, nothing but the database part, where exactly my data will get resides. In order to create some records inside the table, in order to modify, in order to delete and everything, we need to create some graphical user interface. Because as a programmer, we know how to insert the record, how to delete the record by using the different ways. It may be by using data loader, it may be by using Apex programming, it may be by using anything. But my customers, my end users, my partners, those people are not aware of how to write the code and how to execute the code, to insert the record, to manage the records. For that, here we are going to be designing our own graphical user interfaces. Now, this graphical user interface is nothing but the front end part, or the presentation, or view, or the user interfaces, or the screens, or whatever. Now, this is nothing but your Visualforce page. In this Visualforce page, what we have a graphical user interface is available. Okay, we have a graphical user interface is available here. In this graphical user interface, we are having the buttons are available, save button and the cancel button. After entering some data inside this field, as soon as when you click on that, the save button, the record has to be get saved. Then where it has to save that record inside the same table. Then how this graphical user interface will know this is the database to which we need to interact. This is the table in which we need to store the data. This is the columns in which we are going to storing this field's information. It doesn't know all these things. This graphical user interface is not having that much of intelligence here. So for that here, as soon as when they click on save button, internally it is calling one method which is available inside your business logic, nothing but Apex programming. That business logic is nothing but the mediator component between the front end and the back end here. What are the functionality that we are going to implement? The whole functionality we are going to writing with the help of the business logic, which can be done with the help of Apex programming language. This Apex programming code we can able to write inside the developer console, or the standard navigation, or the execute anonymous window, or the Eclipse IDE, whatever. By using those ways, we can able to write your Apex programming code. Okay. Visualforce is the front end, and then this will be the back end part. Nothing but the business logic part. Apex is the back end part.
So whatever the Salesforce application we already have, the user interface is done by Visualforce?
Yeah, that is the page layout, right? So now by default, Salesforce is going to providing some page layout to you by default here. But if the
so even if
layout
we create our own, it will look like what we are seeing now in Salesforce.
So we are creating our own also here. We can create our own based on your requirement, whatever you want. Suppose, for example.
Yeah, but it will look like the same what we are seeing, which is already there in Salesforce.
Yeah, I will tell you here. Now, what exactly the requirement to go with that? For example, I'm having that account object here. Whenever I'm creating this account object, it is providing that record types option. I have selected that record type, which I need to select to create a new record. Now, this is the page layout given by the Salesforce to you by default for each and every object. Now, by using this page layout, we can able to create some records and we can able to manage the records also. So, but at that time, inside that page layout, we have discussed about the page layout customization. Okay, we have discussed about page layout customization. So now in this particular page layout, we have defined the whole features into the various sections, like as account information section, background verification section, address information section, and the additional information section. Like that here, we have divided the whole sections. In each and every section, we have placed some fields in the multiple columns. Now this is one column. We have placed some fields inside that. This is the second column in which we have placed some fields inside that. But my requirement is I want to place the fields in 3 columns. I want to place the fields in 4 columns, 5 columns, 10 columns. Then how can we place? Page layout customization will not be allowing you to place the fields in more than 2 columns. Page layout customizations will allow you to place the fields in either 1 column or maximum 2 columns, not more than that. But sometimes there is a requirement that we need to place the fields in multiple columns, like 3 columns or 4 columns or 5 columns. At that time, the normal page layout will not be get supported. So at that time, we have to go with our Visualforce pages. We have to design the similar kind of user interface, but instead of placing the fields in 2 columns, we can place the fields in 3 columns also, or 4 columns also, or 10 columns also. Depends upon your need. So because when coming to the page layouts also, we are having some limitations are there. In order to go over those limitations, we are going to be using that particular Visualforce pages. Now, one more requirement I will tell you here. Let's see. So now when coming to this particular Visualforce pages, we are having that when coming to this standard layout, we are having that save button. After entering some data inside this account record, when you click on save button, automatically your account record will be getting saved. But it won't verify with this account name already an account record is exist or not. It won't cross check that. Blindly it will be saving this record into that associated object here. But my requirement is here, as soon as when I click on save button, it has to verify with this name already an existing account record is exist inside my table or not. If the record is exist, then it has to show some message with this name already an account record is exist. If the record is not there, then it has to insert my record here. So like that, I need to have some deduplication process also here. I need to have some deduplication process where it has to cross-check the duplication first. If there is no duplicate records are there, then it has to insert that record into my associated object. Okay. So, but at that time, when coming to the normal standard page layouts, these are not providing this kind of functionalities to us, so that we have to go with that Visualforce pages. In order to design your own customized user interfaces, in order to provide your own customized business logic, then we can able to use your own Visualforce pages as well. Okay.
Feroz, I have a question from one of previous class regarding the sharing.
Okay.
This question asked in one of the interview which I recently attend. They asked me why we use the programmatical approach for the sharing, and when to use the declarative. I know the declarative, but I don't differentiate between when I should choose the declarative and programmatic.
Okay. So now declarative and the programmatic, these are the two different ways are available to you here. For example, sometimes whenever you are going to be creating that sharing rule, okay, you are creating that sharing rule where for each and every sharing rule, we are going to be defining some certain conditions based on which you would like to share that record. See, when coming to the sharing rules, as we have discussed that, when coming to the sharing rules, we can able to share the record based on either owner or based on either criteria. Whatever the criteria that you have specified, that criteria will be fixed. Okay, that criteria will be fixed. But sometimes my requirement is I would like to define that criteria dynamically at runtime. Okay, dynamically at runtime, based on my criteria, I want to make my record to be get visible to some other people here. So at that time, we can able to go with that Apex sharing. By using that Apex sharing, we can able to share the records through programmatically also here. But here, we have to create the multiple sharing rules. Okay, we have to create that multiple sharing rules over here. Now, if the criteria is like this, then share the record to this person. If the criteria is like this, and share the record to this person here. Like that multiple sharing rules we have to create. But at that time here, the conditions which we have specified, they will be static. We cannot make it as dynamic. If you want to make the conditions dynamic, and based on that, if you want to share the record, then we can able to go with that Apex sharing rule.
Okay.
Now.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Now. So now understood the concept, then how can we write the code? How can we execute the code? How to see the result? The same process we are going to be using from now onwards. Now, write one more small program here. Write an Apex program to define two variables and assign the values and display the values. So now my requirement is I want to define the two variables. You can take any type of variable, integer variable, the decimal, and the long, string, whatever. You can take any type of two variables here. Define two variables and then assign some value and then display those values here. Now, so as already I told you that when coming to the integer variable, even though you may be defining any type of variable, at the time of definition itself, Salesforce is going to be allocating some amount of memory for that variable by default, because all the primitive data types are going to be supporting the static memory allocation that we have discussed during that primitive data types and the subject data types over there. Now, once the memory has been getting allocated, inside that memory, what is the default value will be getting stored by Apex programming? By default, it is going to storing that null value here. Then how do you know whether it is null value or something else? Now, let's see practically here. I want to define two variables. I want to get the value of those variables here. Then how can we get that value? We'll see practically here. Let's go to your program. So now I am going to be writing that code. I'm defining that variable here. Integer customer ID string customer name. These are the two variables that I have defined here. You are aware of how to define the variable. Variable declaration. So now whenever you are going to be starting that line with the help of two forward slashes, it is mean this is a commenting statement here. Nothing but commenting that code in order to provide some documentation. Whatever the code that you have been commented, that commented lines of code cannot be counted inside that 30 lakhs characters count. That commented code cannot be compiled. The commented code will not be executed by the force.com platform to you. Commenting means nothing but this code I don't want to execute inside my application. I want to make it like as some documentation process. Now, in order to comment that code, we are going to be using the two forward slashes here. If you want to comment that code, we are having two ways of commenting here. Single line comment, and the second one is the multi-line comment here. So in a single line, if you want to comment only one line, then you can able to specify that the two forward slashes before that string. Nothing but this is the whole code here. Now, Apex code. Now, before that line, you can specify that the two forward slashes automatically, that code will be getting compiled, commented over here. If you're having some multiple lines of code is available, okay, if you're having some multiple lines of Apex code is available, if you want to comment that multiple lines of code, then you can specify that multi-line comment here. Specify the forward slash and a star symbol. And then between that here, you can able to specify that code which you want to comment. Whatever the code that you want to comment, place that code, and then you can specify, you can close that by using star and a forward slash. Nothing but this block is going to be indicating this is the block of statements which needs to be get commented. Nothing but this code cannot be compiled, this code cannot be executed, this code characters cannot be counted inside that lacks Apex characters code. Now, so this is the functionality of the commenting statement here. Now we are having single line comment, we are having that multi-line comment like as your C programming itself. Now the same formats are available. Now, so now here I have defined this variable here. Then how can we display the values of this variable? Here also I'm using the system.debug. Here simply we can specify that variable name, customer ID. Inside that method we can pass that variable name. What are the values available inside that variable? That value will be getting described to you. Nothing but displays to you here. System.debug customer name. So now here, these are the 4 lines of code that I have written right now here. Integer customer ID and the string customer name, 2 variables that I have defined. Whatever the values are available inside that, I am going to be displaying those values over here. I'm writing that statement. Print the values. So now here, now let's execute this code. In order to execute that code, we have to use that execute button. When you click on execute, the first 2 lines of code is also will be getting executed. But I don't want to execute this whole code. I want to execute only this code, 4 lines of code here. Select this 4 lines of code by using mouse pointer. Click on execute highlighted button. Okay, click on execute highlighted button. The request has been sent to the server. Now go to the developer console. The log file has been opened for you. Select the debug only checkbox right now. Now it is providing the value as null, null. Nothing but what happened, if you did not assign any value for that variable, by default Salesforce is allocating the value as null. It may be integer also, it will be assigning that null value by default. That already we have discussed that integer means it's not a reserved word. It's not a system defined word. It's not a token. It's a class. Everything, each and every data type that we have inside that Apex programming, everything is nothing but a class to you. so that it is going to be allocating the default value as null, even though if it is an integer variable by default. Now, let's go to your statement here. Now I want to assign some value for these variables here. How can we assign the values? Now I'm assigning these values here. Assigning the values. Now for that customer ID, I'm assigning some value, some 14005600. Now this is the value that I'm assigning over here. And for the customer name equals to, this is a string variable, so that we have to assign that string value inside a single quotation. So that I'm giving that customer name as some Merck Pharma. Merck Pharma Incorporation. So now here I'm going to be displaying this value over here. So now for these two variables, the memory has been assigned, but we haven't stored any value. So now I have assigned the value for that variable here. So now in this case, what happened? As soon as whenever we are going to be assigning some value for this variable, then this value will be storing inside that memory location reserved for that variable to you by default. Now let's print these values here. Print the values. I'm using that system.debug. Specify that variable name, customer ID, system.debug, customer name. Whatever the values are available inside these variables, I am going to printing those values here. Now, once you are written this code, I would like to execute this code. Select those statements, click on execute highlighted. What are the lines of code we have selected that will be sending to the first.com platform? It has executed that. It has generated that, the log file to you. This is the log file has been getting generated. Sometimes if the log file is not visible to you, then you can able to go to this developer console, go to this tab bar, click on this logs tab. You can able to click on that recently generated log file over here. Now select the debug only checkbox. Now it is going to be displaying that information to you. The first two statements are going to displaying the value as null, nothing but by default the value is null, and later we have assigned some value over here, like as 14005600 and the Merck Pharma Incorporation. Now it is going to displaying these values over here. Now displaying the value some 14005600. What is this value? Customer ID, balance value, phone number, or what it is here? Then how do we know? So now for that here, what happened here? I am going to be displaying that information in a meaningful format over here. Now, for example, assume that I am going to be designing a graphical user interface. Like for example, I'm designing a login screen. And this is a login screen that I'm designing right now over here. In this login screen, I'm going to placing two text boxes where the user can able to enter some username and the password to log in into my application. I'm providing the two text boxes. One is the username. One is to enter the username. Second one is to enter the password. After that, I'm placing the two button controls by which the user can able to invoke some actions. He can able to validate my data as well. So now here I'm placing the two buttons. One is the login button, and the second one is the cancel button. I haven't provided any labels over here for along with this text boxes here. Now in this kind of scenario, if I'm designing the graphical user interface like this, then how the people will understand in which text box do we need to enter the username, in which text box do we need to enter the password? It will be raising an ambiguity here. So now if it is a programmer will be aware of that. First text box is for the username, second text box is for the password. But the common people, those people will be not aware of this information, what needs to be get entered. So for that, what needs to be done, we have to provide some label information also here. So along with that button control, I want to place some label over here, like as enter username. I'm providing some label here, enter username. And here I'm providing that label, enter password. Now it is giving some more meaningful information to us. Even though he may be a programmer, even though he may be a common man, even though he may be a business person, everybody will be getting the clear information that the first text box is to enter the username, second text box is to enter the password. Like the same way here, when coming to my values also, we have printed that value. First value is 14005600. And the second value is Merck Pharma. Then what exactly this Merck Pharma? What exactly this value? Then how do we know? For that here, we are going to be displaying that values along with some content also, some messages also here. Nothing but for that, how can we print these values here? So now I want to print that message here, like as customer ID is so and so value, and the customer name is so and so value. Like that, I want to print some message over here. So for that, we have to use system.debug customer ID is. Now this is a string, so that I'm going to be enclosing inside that single value, nothing but the single quote. And then after that, I would like to place that value called as customer ID here. So now this is a numerical value and this is the string value. Then how can we concatenate these two? By using an operator called as plus operator. In the yesterday's session, we have discussed that whenever you are placing the plus operator between the two numerical values, it is performing that addition operation. If you are placing that plus operator between the two different types of variables, it is performing that concatenation. So for that, here I'm using that concatenation operator called as plus. Like as customer ID is so and so value, the customer ID value here. I'm displaying that value. Customer name is, I'm printing that value, the customer name. So now here we can able to print that value here. Now this is a sample text message which I'm going to displaying like as the label here. So for that, this is a string value, so that we have to enclose into that single quote here. Now let's execute your code right now. Click on execute. The request has been sent to the server. Server is loading that response debug log file to you. Once the debug log file has been getting opened, then click on that debug only checkbox. Now it is providing that information to you that the customer ID is so and so value, customer name is so and so value. Now it is going to be giving some clear information to us. Okay. Now it is giving some clear information to us. Not only ourselves, everybody can able to understand that this value is the customer ID and this name is the customer name. So this is a way we are going to be writing some small basic programming when coming to the Apex programming here. In tomorrow's session, we are going to discuss about few more programmings here. Now from today onwards, everything we are going to be discussing through programmatical itself. All our programs, but we have to do the practice here. Now do these small programs, do the practice so that you feel comfortable how to write the code, how to execute the code, how to come to that debug log file, how to see the result inside that. Do some basic programming, nothing but whatever the program that we have discussed as of now, just we can able to do that practice so that we can feel comfortable with that navigation, how to write the code and how to execute that code, how to see the results over here.
Yeah, thank you, Firoz.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Firoz.
Thank you.